Okay, so I've been hearing that the Detroit Lions defense, like we're ranked 22nd overall. I'm sorry, in points per game. And the Detroit Lions are 8-3. That I want you to remember something. Be very clear. Record does not mean good team. Record does not mean you're going to beat good teams. It just means that you've won the games that you've played. But when you go against stiffer competition, are you going to win games? In the last 15 games, the Detroit Lions have beat 4 teams with winning records. 4 teams out of their last 15 games, right? The other teams were 500 or lower. They beat 4 teams that were, and we're not talking about like 9-7. We're talking about 2-1, 2-0, beginning of the season when you don't really know who you are. It's the how you finish. And that's dating back to last year, starting with the New York Jets. I don't know if I included the Green Bay Packer game. Detroit Lions have a problem. And that problem, his name is Aaron Glenn and the defensive pass rush. So my question is, when is it going to be enough of Aaron Glenn? When is it going to be enough? Very few people are capable of success in a bad system. I won't have faith in the Lions until Will Harris is gone. Our record may be a fluke, but AG said we are a top 10 defense. Ravens exposed us. We don't have the players. Now, all we need this talk today, watch AG get fired in the middle of this episode. That would be fantastic. Dern says I've already had enough of Aaron Glenn. Now, if Robert Saleh gets fired, he would be my number one candidate. My number one candidate. But the question is, can Brad Holmes Dan Campbell, can he fire his buddy? Can he fire his buddy? I'm going to take you back to 2022 when the Lions were 1-6 and we lost to the Minnesota Vikings after going into the half up 27-17. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, we kept them guys in check for the first half. We had a 27-17 point lead. We come out in the second half. We don't score a single point the very next day. Aubrey Pleasant is fired. How is that his fault? Now, it came out that potentially he was telling the defensive backs to do stuff that they weren't supposed to do. He was telling them to do something different from what the play call was. Can't confirm or deny that statement. But you have a historically bad defense. You're 1-6, and you fire the defensive back coach, right? You draft Brian Branch. You draft Jack Campbell. You bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley. You bring in some guys in the secondary. Alex Anzalone's playing lights out. Is it the personnel? Is it Aaron Glenn? Is it a mixture of both? When is Aaron Glenn's time going to be up in Detroit? I think that he's going to finish the season. And I'm going to keep it real. Lions finish 11-6. Somebody need to be fired. Somebody needs to be fired. He would be my number one choice because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell is connected to AG the same way Brad Holmes is connected to Dan Campbell. Eventually, Dan Campbell going to have to cut them ties. He's going to have to cut those ties. If he wants to stay the Lions head coach and Brad Holmes is as ruthless, if he's the villain he says he is, Dan Campbell going to have to cut them ties. I saw the rumblings early this season against the Chiefs. I gave Glenn till now to change the scheme or do something, but AG hasn't changed a thing. I hate to say it, but he needs to go. 2 of the 3 DBs we brought in, mostly out off season. We have better pieces in defense this year, and we still Dan Campbell and Robert Saleh will make. Hey, bro, that's facts. Lions have had more draft picks on defense than offense since Home took over. Defense is still bad. Dern, why is that? Why is that? When you trade up for guys like Broderick, I only play 11 snaps Martin, that's a problem. When you trade up for guys like Josh Pascal, that's a problem, right? He was part of the Jamison Williams trade. When you take a guy like Levi Onwuzurike, that's a problem. When your defense sucks and you take projects, those are problems. But eventually somebody has to pay the price. The defensive pass, total defense for the Detroit Lions in points per game was points per game to me is all that matter because you can give up a bunch of yards, but stop with the points, right? Points win games, not yards. So for me, 32, okay, cool. Now you move up to 28. Wow. Now you are at 22 with 6 games left. It's very possible that the Detroit Lions defense could end the year in 25, 26, somewhere around there. And I'm going to tell you what, if Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn, if he does not go higher, we're talking about, to me, for him to save his job, he's going to have to rank in the second third of the league. So you got 1 through 11, you got 12 through 22 or whatever it is. And then he needs to be, right now, he is on the cusp. If he makes it up there, I give him one more year. If he doesn't, he needs to be fired. And if we get bounced out of the first round and it's 40, 45 to something, he needs to be fired. Okay? Because you think Brad Holmes is going to take accountability? No, he's not. And that's another thing, too, we're going to have to talk about as well. But let me know your thoughts on Aaron Glenn. When is enough of Aaron Glenn?